Just nod your head when you're ready.
Ready when
Okay, guys. Brian Turpak, Steelworks Strength Systems here. I'm joined by Mr. J.R. Flanders, and we're going to talk about squat width and why everyone doesn't need to be squatting in the same positions with your feet. Big thanks to Dr. Quinn Hennoch over at Juggernaut Training Systems for kind of coming up with this idea, or at least exposing this idea. So, JR, I just want you to squat how you would normally squat. Okay, and back up one more time. Cool. So obviously we're a little bit shallow in depth in this squat. So what we're going to look at is basically how the head of his femur sits up into his pelvis. And we might find that if we just simply do some manipulation of the hips, he might be in an actually better position to squat. So we're just going to lay JR down on his back. And what we're going to do is we're going to work through passive ranges of motion up into the hip. So here's basically where he was squatting. JR, how does that feel? Tight, cool. So we're also going to explore a little bit of internal rotation. He's got a pretty decent amount. Tony, if you want to take a look from over at this angle. So he's got a pretty decent amount of internal rotation, okay? But he's also, I'm guessing, has a decent amount of external rotation in the hip, and that's going to come into play in a second. So we also saw that here it's really tight. But as soon as we kind of take the knee out, notice that we've got a lot more range. How does that feel? More loose on this side, Jeremy? Yep, okay. So we note on the right leg, he's in that position. If we do the same thing on the left leg, how does that feel, JR? Really tight, okay? Much more tight than on the other leg. We also note that he's got a lot more range of external rotation here on the left leg, and not as much internal rotation on the left hip. Does that feel a little bit more tight, right? And then we kind of come back and we go outside to the outside edge of that pelvis. We again notice that he's got more range of motion. Feels a bit more loose here, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to stand JR up. And JR, I just want you to go into your normal squat width where you were a second ago, okay? And what we're going to do with JR, because we noticed that there was a little bit more room in external rotation, and that he had a little bit more room going a little bit outside on his pelvis, we're going to take his legs a little bit wider than that, and then we're going to really turn out his feet a little bit more, okay? So we're externally rotating at the hip. We're not going to be going and squatting like that. That's just not very stable. But we're going to give a little bit more external rotation. You'll note toes are pointed out a little bit more. Okay? So go ahead and give me 5 good squats, JR. 5 good air squats. And if you note from the side, he's got a lot more room. How does that feel in relation to where you started off, JR?
A lot lower.
A lot lower. Does it still feel strong and stable?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So again, to kind of recap here, there is a universal start position for most people when they squat. We always coach it here at Steelworks Strength Systems to be a little bit outside of your hips and your toes are turning out slightly. But not everyone should be squatting there, as we saw here. Every coach here has this little assessment they can use to really fix someone's squat in 5 seconds. That didn't take hardly any time, right, JR? And now we're squatting a lot better. For any other questions about strength training or squatting, please email me at brian@steelworksstrength.com. J.R. Flanders, thank you so much.